Do you want access to any chord sound when you're playing slide guitar? Do you want to be able to play chords without removing the slide? Do you want to be able to throw in chords when you're soloing? Best of all, what I'm talking about today doesn't just apply to slide guitar, it applies to any guitar playing, and in fact it applies to any instrument. Hi, I'm Dylan Kay, One Finger Guitarist. I help guitar players start playing slide guitar, and if you play slide already, I can help you play even better. If you're a Patreon subscriber, there's bonus footage, behind the scenes stuff. Please check out the link below if you'd like to become a patron. Let's get into the video. So as One Finger Guitarists, we've already imposed limitations. We can't use all four fingers to play chords in the same way that we would normally, and we're a little bit limited on stretching as well. So what if we could play chords with less notes and use the characteristics of the slide to make it sound even better? So today I'm playing in standard tuning. I've got the slide on my fourth finger. This applies to any tuning. In fact, it applies to any instrument. Make sure you stay till the end for some tips on how to take all this further. So the approach we're going to take is very simple really. We're going to visualize bigger chord shapes and take pairs of notes from those. Now it sounds very simple, and once you get into it, the principle behind it is very straightforward to understand, but it can get very complex. What we're going to talk about today is just getting your foot in the door and getting you to understand how to do this. Obviously, as you develop your chord vocabulary and you know more shapes on the guitar, you're going to be able to take all this even further. So these pairs of notes that we're going to look at might involve the root note and a note from the chord, or, very importantly, you might dispense with the root altogether and just use a pair of notes from the chord that don't include the root. The final thing that we're going to talk about a little bit is voice leading, how we move smoothly from one chord to the next, which is incredibly important for any kind of harmonic playing. So this pair of notes could include the root. For instance, I'm playing the root and the minor third. That could be like a minor chord. Or you can dispense with the root entirely. So we could play this. For a dominant ninth chord, we've got the major third and the ninth. It comes out of this chord shape and the James Brown ninth chord shape. So the important thing here is you don't have to play the root. And the final thing is just understanding that we want to move smoothly between pairs of chords. And this gets us into the whole territory of voice leading. I'll talk a little bit about that a bit later on, but this is an important thing when you're working out which shapes to use and how to connect them together. Technique-wise, we're going to use our first finger and the slide exclusively. So finger one and the slide. There are going to be two instances. Either the slide is above the note that you're fretting. So here I'm playing the note on the fifth string with my first finger, and the slide is on the fourth string. Or it might be the other way around, where the finger that we're using is above the note that the slide's playing. So in this case, the slide's still on the fourth string, but my first finger is now on the second string. Obviously every time the finger is going to be behind the slide, but it will be either above or below the note that you're playing with the slide. In terms of the right hand, when we're playing on adjacent strings, we're going to use thumb and index finger. And if we're playing on non-adjacent strings, we're skipping strings in between, what we'll do is we'll use thumb and finger two, and our first finger will mute the note in between. So if I go back to that ninth chord, I'm using thumb and finger two to play strings 4 and 2. So thumb on string 4, second finger on string 2. But my first finger is muting the third string in between. And if I were to skip even further, so say I'm on string 4 and on string 1, I'm going to play with the thumb and the second finger. But my first finger is going to live on string 2 just to mute the string next to my second finger. So we're going to look at all of this just using two chords. We're going to use E7 and A7. You can apply this to any chord progression, any chords, any tuning, any instrument. It really doesn't matter. The principle is going to be the same, but I'm just going to keep this simple so that I can take you through it step by step. So E7th to A7th. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the bigger chord shape that each of these pairs of notes come from. I'm going to do that without the slide so that I can show you, conventional guitar playing wise what that looks like. Then I'll put the slide back on and demonstrate these pairs of notes. So let's start with E7th at the 7th fret. This is a bar chord just based on an open A7th chord, and you just take it up. So your first finger's at the 7th fret, 3rd and 4th fingers are at the 9th fret on strings 4 and 2. A very common E7th chord shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play an A7th. So I'm going to think about this A chord here, just at the 5th fret. And what I'm going to do is add the 7th on string 2. So I'm actually going to do this. Okay, and that's basically coming from your open E chord with your little finger on string 2. I've just moved it all the way up. This looks like an open E, and I've got my little finger on string 2 playing the 7th. So my pair of notes that I'm going to choose here are, here's my E7th chord again, I'll try and do it with those fingers, and I'm going to take these two notes and play that sound for my E7th sound. And I can play the open 6th string there, so just as a reference. So this is an example immediately where, other than that reference note, I'm not actually playing the root with the slide here. And what's interesting as well, and something that you can look to take advantage of, is I don't even need my finger here. The slide is doing all the work because I'm just on the same fret. So I'm on strings 4 and 2 at the 7th fret. Now this next chord shape, I'm going to go to the A7th, and I'm just going to play strings 4 and 2 as well. This time my first finger is going to get involved. So the first finger is on the 4th string, and the slide is on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. So strings 4 and 2, the first chord's at the 9th fret. The next one is at the 7th and 8th fret. So if I put a reference under, here's E, here's A. So I can move between those two chord shapes. And it's very smooth. In terms of the voice leading, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, but the idea is it's a very small movement to get from one chord shape to the next. Okay, so let's take another pair of chords. Let's take this E7 here. So this is based on, if you take a C chord and make it into a 7th chord, by adding your little finger on string 3 and you just move it up, there's E7. And then the next chord shape is A7. Pretty standard bar chord shape, which comes from this E7. So if you took an E chord and took your 3rd finger off, you'd play it as a bar. So the pair of notes I'm going to choose for the E7th are on strings 5 and 3 from that chord shape. So this time I got the root and the 7th, or the minor 7th. Again, it just so happens that in this case both notes are played with the slide. That's just kind of a coincidence really, but this, as I said, this is something to look out for as well. So it's my E7, and then the A7th I'm going to play on the middle two strings. So my first finger's on string 4 at the 5th fret, the slide is on the 6th fret on the 3rd string. Okay, so I've got my E7, I've got my A7. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate those pairs of chords. So the one that I played up at the 9th fret and this shape, and then the one I just demonstrated. I'm going to demonstrate that over a little loop so you can hear what that sounds like. Next pair. Okay, so let's get into some slightly more advanced chords. Let's take an E9 chord and an A9 chord. My E9 chord is like the James Brown one. Middle 4 strings, fret 7, 6, 7, 7. Then the A9 chord is going to be fret 4, fret 5, fret 4, fret 5 on the middle 4 strings as well. E9, A9. So for E9, I'm going to take the note on the 2nd string, which is the 9th, and the note on the 4th string. Okay, put that reference in. And then for the A9, I'm just going to take the pair of notes on strings 2 and 4, which again is one where I can just use the slide on its own. So I'm just at the 5th fret on strings 4 and 2. So E9, A9, Sorry, got a little carried away there, but the idea being just to show you that you can incorporate this with other stuff you're playing as well. And the beauty of, being able to play the chord with the slide on is you can, then go into a single note fill or something and then come back to the chord without having to take the slide off or do so any weird stuff. Okay, and let's get a little bit more sophisticated again. So I'm going to take an E7 sharp 9 chord, which is the Hendrix chord. Middle 4 strings, 7, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to take an A13th chord. So this is on string 6, 4, 3, 2. And I've got fret 5, fret 5, fret 6, fret 7. So E7 sharp 9, A13. So on the E7 sharp 9, I'm going to play the note on the 4th string, which is the 3rd of the chord, and the sharp 9, which is the note on string 2. Then I'm going to take that exact same shape back 1 fret to play the A13. So I'm still on strings 4 and 2. And I just drop that same shape back. Okay, so it's very smooth, it's just going back 1 fret for each chord. And if I put the reference note under, and for A, okay, so that's, what I'm trying to show you here really is that you can extend it according to the chord vocabulary that you have. The principle is always the same. You just visualize a bigger chord shape and then pick pairs of notes from it. Now, the thing that I talked about a little bit earlier on, the voice leading aspect of it, is that we're trying to move very smoothly in small movements between the chords. So a very good way of getting into this is just think about the highest sounding note and get it to move the smallest amount you can. So the smallest amount would be not to move at all. So if I'll mix up some of these chords. Here's E9, and I'm going to go to A13. What I'm doing now is I'm keeping that same note, the F sharp, on top of both. So that would be very smooth voice leading, and the other note is only moving by 1 fret. But if you focus on the highest sounding note, that can really help. And then, we've had examples already where the note on top just moves by 1 fret for even the first example. Going to A7, just move down by 1 fret. So that's smooth as well. Generally speaking, you're looking, look at that top note first, and then look at what the other notes are doing. In this case, it's just the other note because there's only one other note. And you want to move the smallest amount, so either stay on the same note, which is called a common tone, or just move 1 fret or 2 frets. When you get to 3 frets, then we're kind of stretching the bounds of it really, and you might be wanting to look at changing to a different chord voicing just to try and smooth that out. But once you start hearing chords played like this, you won't want to go back to just randomly playing chords wherever you happen to know the shape. You'll want to kind of learn to just make them flow together nicely. Now there are a number of things you could do to take this further. As I say, I just want to get you to dip your toe in the water here, understand the principle, and then you can run with it based on your chord vocabulary. And as you extend your chord vocabulary, you have more shapes to take chords from. What I would suggest you do is you take this through maybe a 3-chord blues. So we've done E7 and A7. You could add a B7th chord to it, or you could just apply it to a tune that you play already, a song that you play, and try and just work out how you could play the chords just using pairs of notes. So the more practice you get applying this, the further you'll get into it, and the more you'll be able to do it on the fly without having to kind of plan out what you're going to do every time. So in conclusion here, I hope that this has given you an insight into something that is incredibly powerful. It takes some work on your part just to start piecing this together, but you can dive in right now with the chords that you know, and it's a beautiful sound. It's very different playing a note with the slide as part of a chord, and it unlocks the guitar. A lot of people when they're playing slide, they're just playing the 1, 4, 5 chord in positions where you can, hit, just hit those kind of major chords. There's so much more you can do, and all we need to do is add 1 extra note. We don't need to tie our fingers in knots. Apart from anything else, using 2 notes is going to protect your hand and your arm, whereas if you're trying to cram all your fingers in and doing all this stuff, you can do real injuries. So this is a very efficient, a really beautiful sounding way of playing chords, and it's good for your kind of slide guitar longevity in the sense that you're not going to damage yourself, hopefully, if you do this the correct way. So have fun with this. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, comment below, subscribe. A big thank you to all the Patreon subscribers. You guys get bonus footage, behind the scenes stuff, archived resources, all sorts of other bits and pieces. Hugely appreciate your support. Thank you. If you'd like to become a Patreon patron of the channel, please see the link below. If this is the latest video in the series, the resources will be available on the One Finger Guitarist website. Again, see the link below. Happy sliding!